All right, guys. So now we're going to get into the FAQs for Chapter 1. So all the students that are currently in our live class here, you guys can type out questions that you have from the material we covered today, and I'll go through and start answering these. But again, remember that if the question is something that totally wasn't covered today, then there's a good chance that it'll be covered in one of the upcoming classes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just um, put the questions up here in the window so you guys can see the questions that are being typed out. All right, and I'll close this here. Okay, so um, let's see. In SpeedTrader, how do you access the hotkey section? You access that by going to the tools and then going down to hotkeys from the top menu item. Mala, SpeedTrader or Lightspeed Financial will almost definitely be faster than E-Trade because E-Trade is very limited direct access routing options. Jason, yes, I'm going to be covering that step-by-step process in Chapter 3 when we talk about stock selection. Time and sales, bid and ask, level 2 stuff moves too fast to make any sense. As a beginner trader, it does move fast, and I definitely understand that. You can see here, even on a stock or on a, let's see, let me pull this down here. On something like the SPY, I mean, it's not moving too much after hours, but you know, there is a lot of flow here, and it can be very hard to read. It takes time, and it takes practice. So we will have classes specifically dedicated to reading level 2, so you get to a point where you can where you feel like you can read this much better. You're at the beginning right now, so I would focus maybe a little bit more on the chart patterns and a little less on level 2. We don't have the E-minis in our simulator right now, so we don't have that available to trade. Let's see. How do you access trade ideas and e-signal as part of this class? You don't, sorry, you don't, Gary, have access to those. But in chapter, I believe it's chapter 9, I'll give you access to my trade ideas scanners. And in chapter, I think 10 is when I'll give you access to my e-signal layout. And as of right now, you guys probably would have access on our dashboard to my e-signal technical indicators. Leslie, to add a moving average to fantasy stock traders, let's see, we scroll down to exponential moving average, and it's going to pop up this little window here where I can type in the period that I want to use. So let's say 50, and then I click apply, and there it's right there. Now I can right click this to delete it if I don't want it anymore. So it's from this window right here. So let me just scroll up here on the questions. The 10% drop is from the open, Karine, for short sale restriction, 10% drop from the open. The price range of targeted stocks is between $1.50 and $10, and we'll talk about that in Chapter 3 when we talk about stock selection. Recommendation for 9-to-5ers who can't trade. I would study the material, and one of the things you can do with Thinkorswim is you can run a market replay where you can actually trade in the evening. You can trade the market as it was in the morning. So you could practice trading at night based on how the market traded that previous day. So if you know, for instance, I traded like APOP and GBR, you could go replay those stocks and watch how they play out. Rachel, in the simulator, there's no issue if you blow up the account. It happens, and you'll be able to keep trading. When an option is exercised, does that appear in time and sales? That's a good question, and I'm not sure the answer to that. I'm actually not sure. David, you can check the headlines. So we'll talk about that also in chapter 3 about identifying the headlines and understanding the catalyst of why a stock is moving up. And Corey, yeah, you can absolutely, if you'd prefer to use a different simulator because you have a firewall in Fantasy or whatever it might be, you can totally do that. It's not a big deal. It's whatever you prefer and whatever works best. The most important thing is that you track your trades, understand your metrics, because that's what I really need to see you doing. Andre, right now we don't have trend line drawings on Fantasy. So these charts are pretty simple. Now, as you can see here, eSignal, all this company does is provide charts. Like that's what they do. Charting can be very complex and very complicated. So most brokers give you pretty basic charts, and then you subscribe to a provider like eSignal or TC2000 that gives really good charts. So these charts are not bad, but they're not nearly to the extent of eSignal. This would take probably a 30 or 40 person development team to get to that level. Um, Christopher, to get the hotkeys in the simulator, you go again to Tools and then down to Hotkey Manager. And then you can see them right there. Control Z is 5 cents below the bid price, or you can set it to 10 cents as you prefer. Some stocks get rejected, Sam, if the stock is not in our exchange. We've got our own little exchange here. We don't have OTC stocks. Sometimes recent IPOs aren't in there. Sometimes stocks that were delisted and then came back on the exchange won't be there because we have to update. So there's a couple different reasons why that might happen. Scottrade, I don't think has direct access routing. So, and I don't know about Street Smart Edge for Schwab either. So they need direct access routing and they need hotkeys. Those are the two things they must have. Yeah, Gary. So for trading in the evening, you could trade with Thinkorswim's replay. So VD, it can be 2 cents or it can be 5 cents or 10 cents for the offset. But here's the thing, if you're getting into a stock and let's say, you buy 1,000 shares and then you go to sell it, right now I'm going 10 cents below the bid because I want to get filled. I want to sell it. And what if there's only a 500 share buyer here and I'm trying to sell 1,000 shares? Well, I might need to sell 500 to him and 200 to the next guy and 100 to the guy below that. So by putting it at 241, I allow a little bit of slippage, but I'm controlling it. I'm not allowing an unlimited amount of slippage, just a little bit. So that's how I control my risk, and that's one of the ways I can help myself get out of a trade that's not working. I think if you're having a hard time following mental stops, you should use live stops. But if you're good at following your mental stop, then you've got it. You're okay. I think if you can use one of the uninterrupted power supplies, that's a good idea in case you lose power. Um, It'll keep you connected for a little while. So Corey, we have our 4 broker rebate programs right now, and we're negotiating new ones, and it's always possible there'll be changes. So for folks that are watching this on the recording, you'll have to check our website to see what the latest rebate programs are. But the way they work right now is that you email the broker a copy of your receipt, and then they'll apply the rebate to your account based on the terms that they have. So each of our rebate programs are just slightly different. FST does not have the VWAP indicator, volume weighted average price. Moving averages, I will cover that in classes 4 and 5. Gaps and scanners we'll be covering in classes 4, 5, 6, and 8 and 9. Control Z sells the whole position at the bid price. My hotkey for selling as a bailout is Control Z. Control K sells at the ask price. So if you're selling at the ask price, you have to wait for a buyer to come buy those shares. So let's say I get in here and I put my order at Control K, I'm sitting on the ask at 77 waiting for a buyer to come buy my shares. I'll get the best price, absolutely, but I have to wait for that buyer to come along. And if I just want to lock up my profit, it may be better for me to go ahead and sell half on the bid, keep the other half up on the ask, or just sell the whole thing on the bid. It depends on the spreads. It depends on whether or not we have buyers. And Carlos, I'm not using TAS Market Profile for my day trades, so we won't cover that, but Jeff uses them for his swing trades. Let's see. For Dash Trader, I use NASDAQ Total View. That's the data feed that I subscribe to. FST commission is set at 0.005, half a penny per share, which is about the same as other brokers. So we tried to make it realistic. Yeah, I'd have to look into that, AJ, for video recording. I have a couple videos where I show my hands trading, and so those ones I'll be including in the classes where we talk about hotkeys. TC2000, but the limit orders execute at higher prices. That could be because of the data feed that they're using for your level 1, and it's hard with simulated trading because it's just not always exactly perfect. So I'm not sure why that might be, but it probably has to do with the data. Kurt, we'll talk about building a watch list in chapter 3, but I start usually around 8:30, 9 o'clock. Yeah, Speed Trader, I think, only gives margin accounts. They don't do cash accounts, I don't think. The question about 9 to 5 for those of you working is that you could trade after hours on the replay simulator that Ameritrade offers. Albert, yes, you can import trades. So you can import from Excel to TraderView. You just have to follow their data kind of requirements. Daniel, I'll look up. Oh, Daniel, how does one get past all the expensive tools you're using when you're trading with a small account? Well, there's a couple things. Number one, if you're all in the chat room right now because you're subscribed to the Warrior Pro course. So you all have access to my scanners, which you see on screen share every day. So you don't need to get scanners right now. You have access to charts in Fantasy Stock Trading Simulator. So you don't need charts, but you could, if you wanted to, subscribe to TC2000. It's about $40 a month with real-time level 2 data, or real-time exchange data. And that's about it. I mean, so maybe $100 a month, maybe $200 if you subscribe to a couple other things. That's about it. You don't need to subscribe to any news feeds or anything like that. If you can't view the exchange agreements, just send me an email and I can take a look at that for you. There might be an error going on there or something. I will release the PDF from today, but not right away. I've got to make a couple updates. I saw a couple typos I want to change. To open a second chart in the simulator, you can click on Chart right here. Questrade I've heard is okay for Canadians. TradeZero I think has lower commissions. Andrew, yeah, you don't have to put it necessarily in the watch list inside the simulator. You could just write down the stocks you're watching and then trade them. And Christopher, the list of the if you rewatch part one of chapter one, today's video, you'll be able to see my suggestions for equipment. Yes, Rachel, HTGM halted yesterday, or it was on Friday, and that was when it stopped trading for 5 minutes. We'll cover circuit breaker halts in class tomorrow. That's right, Sergio. I mean, a tight stop means you have to strictly follow that stop. VD, I always sell below the bid price. Charts are with eSignal. My trades are with DAS Trader for my Speed Trader account. I think Lightspeed will give you an IRA trading account, and Interactive Brokers will as well. And I think so will E-Trade. But Lightspeed and Interactive Brokers are both good for day trading. And no, I don't. I really don't hold overnight. I just don't. I didn't do it once last year. I don't plan to do it once this year. I'm not sure. I haven't used equity feeds, but I think they're similar. I have eSignal Signature, which is middle of the road. I'll show you in class, I believe it's class 10 and class 11, how to build your hotkeys. Neil, if the control button's not working, you could change it in the hotkey manager to Alt or Shift. Sometimes there's compatibility issues. Well, for me, when I started with $500 in SureTrader, I was trading with 1,000 shares because I was trying to quickly grow my account. But the risk is that I could have blown up my account. So, that's kind of the challenge. I want to grow it, but I don't want to blow it up. So it depends how confident you are. Your confidence will come from knowing your metrics. So what are your metrics? Do you know your success rate? Do you know your profit loss ratio? Are you at a point where you can feel confident taking 1,000 shares? I'm not sure. Christopher, shoot me an email and we'll take a look at that. Samurai, I have a couple of recaps where I include live trading from the $583 challenge. Some of those are on YouTube. TC2000 is good, but I like eSignal more. But they're both good. The tax rate depends on your income bracket. Right now, we're not able to draw horizontal lines in the simulator. This recording will probably be uploaded tomorrow afternoon. All right, Eileen, we'll check that email. No, when I subscribed to SureTrader, I used NASDAQ TotalView, and that was my level 2. So it was about $125 a month for their platform. eSignal, Lightspeed and Speed Trader platforms are free. You don't pay extra for them. I'm not sure, Albert, what you mean by that. Which broker format is the Excel file we use? If you mean for TraderView, I mean, you'd have to ask them what they prefer. But when you import trades there, it shows you the brokers they accept from and how they should look. TradeZero is not for U.S. residents, unfortunately. Alliance Trader, I'll have to look into them. I'm not familiar. Yeah, if you open an account with a U.S. firm, they have to follow the U.S. regulation for $25,000 pattern day trader rules. Christian, I rarely trade more than one stock at once. So for me, I take one trade, I trade it as aggressively as I can, and then I'll move on to the next one. So focusing on one at a time has worked really well for me. And then as soon as it doesn't look good, I press Control Z and I'm out. Sergio, yeah, so these classes will be at 4 p.m. each day while we're running the live classes. And so they'll replace the mentor sessions. I haven't tried TradeStation. I don't, I mean, I could look at a PDF, but I don't have OpenOffice. I wouldn't create pre-market hotkeys because I wouldn't trade pre-market. I don't think about what is a safe percentage of capital per trade because for me, it's not about how much capital is in the trade. It's really about the difference between my entry and my stop price. So, if I get in a stock at 280 and my stop is 260, it's 20 cents. If I take 5,000 shares, I'm risking, $1,000. If I buy a $30 stock and I have a 20 cent stop and 5,000 shares, it's still $1,000 of risk. So I don't think a lot about the percentage of capital I put into the trade. Yeah, okay, Albert. The spreadsheet that I use, the Excel sheet, is not one that can be imported into TraderView. Sorry, I maybe wasn't clear on that. Christian, no pre-market trades. Nope. So the long bias that I have is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've always felt the market had a long bias just because the stocks are always moving up. Historically, the market's been strong to the upside. Number two, we have things like the short sale restriction. We have the difficulty of borrowing shares that I feel are sort of institutionalized mechanisms for promoting the long bias mentality. And number three, you have the risk that when you short a position, when you take a short position, you're taking a potentially an unlimited amount of risk on that trade if it goes the wrong way. I like having defined risk, and when I go long, my risk is defined by the amount of money I put into the trade to begin with. And we'll talk about the red to green moves and the ORB moves in classes 6 and 7. For foreigners, Trade Zero is less expensive, yeah. And they have a rebate program with us right now. TradeStation, I'm not sure about, but Interactive Brokers does have good hotkeys, so they're good for day trading, and they allow direct access routing. William, Control Q just cancels all your orders. Control Z is a bailout, but Control Q just cancels any open orders that you might have. The charts in SpeedTrader are not very good, so that's why I would use TC2000 or eSignal or something like that. Lane, you can set your hotkeys to short if you want. Rachel, well, not exactly. I mean, knowing when to go long or short is about understanding the strategy. And so that's something that we'll talk about in classes 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. My trading platform is DAS Trader, which is the platform that SpeedTrader uses as their desktop trading platform. So Kamal, if you're feeling a little lost, I would recommend rewatching the whole class, listening again to the FAQs here, because I think that will really, that'll help hammer in some of these concepts. And the other thing that you can do is read our terminology section, where I'll be explaining some of the basic terms. You can see that over on our website. eSignal isn't a broker account. It's just a platform for charting. So it's not, there's no balance required to open it. Almost all U.S. brokers offer margin for U.S. citizens, including E-Trade, Ameritrade, Fidelity, Speed Trade, or Speed, not Sure Trader, but Speed Trader, Lightspeed, etc. I'm a U.S. resident and I had an account with Sure Trader, so they have been in the habit of opening accounts for U.S. residents. I don't know if that'll be that way forever, but it is right now. Yes, if the order is still open, Joe, it will execute even if the simulator is closed because it's on the server. Right now, I don't have a bailout for shorting because the bailout key works only for long. But what you can do is you can build that same key and use like Alt instead of Control, and then um, you can get out that way. I'm not sure if you can use eSignal to trade with Ameritrade, but you definitely can't with if it's you can't day trade at Ameritrade less than 25,000. Rachel, yes, that's correct, in my opinion. So we'll do this at the end of each class. We'll have the classes. Some of them are one part, some of them are part one, part two, maybe part three, and then we'll have FAQ section where I try to answer the questions that you guys had really pertaining to today's class. So, today's class we covered a lot of different things. We covered brokers, we covered level one, level two, margin accounts, cash accounts, the trading simulator, the Excel docs. So a lot of topics covered today, a lot of topics coming up in the FAQ section here, which is understandable. So Matthew, you're 100% right on APOP today that it did pop up before the bell rang. The problem for me with trading pre-market is that there's usually not enough liquidity, meaning that there's not enough shares traded to be able to get in and out quickly. Now, there was a possible entry right in this area at 775, but at that point there was probably only 150,000 shares of volume, not a lot of volume. So I didn't want to get in. I waited for the first pullback, and it just went without me. I mean, I got in, around 988, but this is just part of the deal. You don't want to chase it, and trading pre-market is too much risk. Yeah, so I will cover how we understand catalysts as part of class three, which is on stock selection. Yeah, and absolutely. If you can trade with Interactive Brokers, I would definitely check them too. I think they have a $10,000 minimum. So their minimum is higher. And that's true Samurai, yeah. Yeah, so I don't think you can direct route on Thinkorswim either. No, the eSignal platform is about $150 a month. So Isaac, this is our for the next 3 weeks. Every single day I'm teaching the live course. So this live course is going to be recorded and then archived, and it'll replace the current class one, chapter one. And so, since you just joined, you'll be able to watch this when I upload the recording, probably tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, Rachel, definitely. I mean, when the market's slow, it's not the best time to practice. It's definitely wouldn't be a good time to trade with real money. But you could look at different charts and you could kind of make a list of, stocks that you're watching and stuff like that. You could kind of break down the charts, what looks good, and that sort of thing. Tom, the PDF course book is being updated. Yeah, so I'll release that a little later in the class once I've built out some more of the chapters. All right, guys. Any other questions? Yeah, it's down there, but I don't use it. It's pinned, but I haven't logged in a long time. Sometimes I'll log in to do, I think the last time was to do a demo for students, which I'll probably do in class 10 or 11. Well, the Bahamas does have regulation. That's not exactly true. There are regulations there, so let's not slam the brokers. I mean, do your research. If you don't like it, that's fine. But um, there are regulations there. It's not the Wild West. Having said that, though, I would still prefer to have my money with the U.S. broker. And so for me, the only purpose of using an overseas broker is to build up my account as quickly as possible. IB is international, and they are a fantastic company. They just have a higher minimum. So, um, anyways, just something to be mindful there. I'm not sure, Stetson, if they require you to say that. Lightspeed is good for both foreign and domestic students. SureTrader is located in the Bahamas. Right. Okay. And I get that, Albert. All right. So, any other questions pertaining to today's topic? And Anthony, yeah, you could absolutely trade 3 times a day. It would just take longer to grow your account. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you restrict yourself to 3 times a day, it's going to take longer to grow your account to the point where you might not really be making enough money to justify, trading. And that would be the challenge. But you could. We'll talk about 1 minute and 5 minute when we talk about chart patterns a little later in the series. Yeah, Rachel, essentially, there'll be new versions of the old classes. Yeah, in the simulator, you just right click and then you can pop out the window. All right, guys, so I'll leave it at that for this evening, and we will jump back here 4 p.m. tomorrow for class 2. Topic tomorrow will be risk management. Topic for class 3 is stock selection. So you can plan ahead a little bit. Make sure you're taking notes. And again, jump into the simulator tomorrow for those of you where tomorrow's a weekday. Jump into tomorrow, start trading, start practicing, get into it, and I will see you all tomorrow afternoon in class and first thing tomorrow morning um, in the um, in the chat room. All right, thanks, guys.